Don't bring him over here. No. Oh no, I used my both cooldowns at once. That was a mistake.
No. My God. Stop.
Earth's down. Krispy Kreme's down. Hell yeah, let's go. Oh,
So many
oh my
unique.
god, so many
It's
unique.
raining uniques.
While there's been a lot of memes about Diablo 4 revolutionizing and changing the state of ARPGs and itemization and all that, which I don't think is really true, the one thing that it does seem like they have done is they have created a new type of game. This is not a traditional ARPG. This is not a traditional MMO. I don't know what it is, but it is a mixture of a little bit of all of those things. And while my opinion is still very much evolving, the beta started about 30 hours ago. I've played quite a bit in those 30 hours. I do think I'm having fun, but that does come with a lot of caveats. So starting at noon yesterday, at time of recording, the closed beta did start. You had to either spend $100, get a free creator code, or the biggest sacrifice of all, eat a KFC Double Down sandwich. I did spend $100. I didn't get any handouts. I have not been contacted by Blizzard or anything. This is all my own opinions, totally free of, external influence. Traditional of any Blizzard game, the entire day, there were tons of server stability issues, lots of people getting disconnected. Sometimes people's characters were disappearing, stuff like that. I'm not going to focus on that too much. Since this is a beta, there are expected to be performance issues over the course of the first week of the game actually being out. All of that stuff generally will go away. Starting off from the beginning, we went through the character creation process. I made this cool looking sorcerer. Gonna say it right off the bat, the graphics are really nice. I do really appreciate them, especially the environment and the characters. There's a lot of style to them. The animations, there's a lot of like jank in a lot of the animations, particularly like the character animations. But the ability animations and the sound and the crunch of them does feel really, really good. So the game starts you really hard on rails for a good period of time. There's a lot of cutscenes. There's a lot of dialogue. This game is heavily influenced by Lost Ark. If you hate absolutely everything about Lost Ark and you just want a pure ARPG, you want something like Last Epoch, Diablo 2, Path of Exile, this is not the game. That was a lot of what kind of threw me off when I was playing yesterday. I did not do any research or anything. I went into this entirely blind, and I was really thrown off by the number of really long dialogue-heavy cutscenes. Most of them are skippable, not all of them, and the number of fetch quests and all of that type of stuff. To the point where there was a quest where I had to take my character, walk up to a guard in the town, use an emote, and then I got a reward for just like learning how to do an emote, straight out of any Korean MMO. After doing the first hour or so of full on-rails missions, your character will go into the main town of Kyavashad. I think that's how you pronounce it. And the town opens up as a general quest hub that is connected to other quest hubs. Again, if you've played something like Lost Ark, something like Far Cry, click on the exclamation points, track the quest, go and do that. There's a lot of that going on. There's also gathering materials, and you use these materials for crafting, mining ore, stuff like that. But that does feel kind of minor. Just setting those expectations. All of that stuff is in the game. And while I was streaming the game with the expectation of this being an ARPG, a lot of that really, really threw me off. The other thing that really compounded it for me is the performance was nearly unplayable. I was getting constant frame stutters and skips. When you load into an open world zone, especially a town with a lot of players, the game was dropping to like 5 to 10 FPS, dropping frames constantly. It was really, really bad for me. So anyway, you're on rails for a period of time, and then you are in this quest hub where you have a number of primary quest missions that you'll see on the right side of the screen. Then you also have your side quests and additional missions, and you can track them, untrack them. You'll get these blue diamonds on the map that then you can just go there, walk over to it, and do the quest. And if you've played any game that is like this, you know exactly what it's going to feel like. In addition to that, there are global missions that show up. There's reputation that does global buffs for your characters. This game has a lot of those MMO-light mechanics. Going into this expecting like an ARPG where my character just progresses, I'm in a deep, dark dungeon, going deeper, fighting really big things and feeling like I was getting stronger. That wasn't really there. I guess technically the last MMO that I played was Destiny 2. And I think Destiny 2 might actually be the closest approximation for what I'm seeing is going on in this game. There are specific dungeons that you can do that are spread throughout the world that you can repeat, you can reset them. On the overworld map, there are general locations that events will spawn. You can sit there and group up with the people that happen to be in that area, and you take down whatever the encounter is for a chest that gives you loot. There are strongholds that you unlock that kind of transforms it from a broken down town into a fully built town. This is reminiscent of the bandit missions in Witcher 3, if you've played that game. Tiny little game, I recommend you checking it out. After I ended the stream, I was kind of negative about this, and I wasn't particularly excited about picking up an MMO. At 40 years old, I didn't really feel like playing a new MMO, and the amount of time that you have to sink into that especially. However, a lot of that sentiment has changed. That is all because later that night, after having a burrito, having my dinner, I logged on to Discord where I had a few friends that were playing, and they were all having a lot of fun. And the big difference was they were in a party together. They were hyping each other up. They were able to go in dungeons, do these events together. And it really feels like many of these events are designed to be done as part of a party. And while it feels okay to do it with just a random assortment of people that happen to be in the world, just like something like Destiny 2, okay, there's other people there. They're going to throw the ball at the thing and then this stuff happens. It is just more fun to be on Discord with your friends, and you're making calls like, all right, I'll get the west side, you get the east side, and you actually feel like you're coordinating with a team. We stayed up until at least 3 a.m. I hope it wasn't later than 3 a.m. just progressing the quest missions of my friends and just hearing the fun in their voices as we were progressing through something together as a team. And I didn't realize how much I was really missing that. Path of Exile is really just a single player game that happens to, allow you to trade with other people. And just having a game where we're working together in co-op, it really made all the difference. In my opinion, has now warmed quite a bit since then. Now, there are a number of worrying MMO things that I've already seen, including weekly bonus missions, clear all of the dungeons in the zone every single week, stuff like that. That seems to be hinted at right now by things that I see in the UI. I am worried about that, and the world map is pretty large. I have no idea what the actual endgame flow and systems are going to feel like. Apparently, the endgame skill tree actually gets really interesting and has some depth to it. I haven't looked into it. This is just what I've seen in the beta. But the fact that I see things like region progress, and I have to unlock certain amounts of renown and stuff like that. These do feel like they're kind of the replacement for doing the side quests in something like Path of Exile to get your skill points, to unlock your ascendancies, stuff like that. And so these do feel more global quest-based instead of things that you repeat forever. So I'm not as worried about this as I was initially. All right, and regarding the combat, it is very Diablo 3-ish, although it feels pretty crunchy. And I do want to highlight that they did a really good job here. I find Diablo 3 very bullet spongy. If you've done, Greater Rifts 130, you'd sit there and you're doing trillions of damage and you watch their hit points just slowly tick down. On the flip side of that, we got Path of Exile. Basically, your character isn't killing a boss unless it kills it in less than 5 seconds, right? And the cool thing about this game is it feels like, while the monsters, especially the bosses, feel a little bullet spongy to me, I have been enjoying the mechanics of actually having additional things to deal with. I do like complexity in boss fights, and we've seen a little bit of that. There was a world boss fight that I did twice with my friend. It is pretty cool to fight a big boss that actually has choreographed attacks that you have to dodge and play around with. And the moves that we have access to in this game, I was partying with both a rogue and a barbarian, just feel crunchy. They're very impactful, feels like you're actually hitting something, and besides big elites that take a lot of hits, you do generally kill things relatively quickly. My build right here, I am a fire sorceress. I have tried every single sorceress skill, and nothing to me really compares to this. Primarily to me is the issue really is mana. We have very, very limited mana pool here. By default, we have 100 mana without getting any on gear. Can get a little bit on a passive tree. And spells that cost mana cost a lot of mana. So skills are broken down into these categories. I'm not going to go into too many details here, but the core skills here are generally what you're intended to use. And early on, you're forced to use these as you're going down the skill tree. If we take a look here, both Fireball and Frozen Orb cost 40 mana each. Chain Lightning costs 35. Charged Bolts cost 40. And we just start with 100 mana. This disappears really, really quickly. Without regenerating, you can only cast those spells twice, and then you're stuck on using your little basic skill here, primarily focused on utility and generating some more mana back for you. So the flow is you're supposed to use your primary skill, and then when your mana is low, and then you spam this little primary ability until your mana gets back. And I found that feeling pretty bad. So I experimented with a lot of stuff, and the big thing for me is Hydra. Hydra only costs 20 mana. With this legendary affix, you can have 1 additional Hydra. You can't stack these. I did try to stack this. You can have up to 2 Hydras. It doesn't cost very much mana. They do comparable damage to your other spells that you have to spam. You can have 2 of them out, and then that will allow you to also use something like Firewall, which is an addition that can continue doing damage while your character's running around. So I have found that dropping 2 Hydras, dropping a couple Flame Walls, and then just going around feels really, really good. And I was able to do the entire campaign in the entire game, as well as a bunch of solo strongholds, fighting Butcher, who is one of the hardest things in the game. Butcher will randomly spawn in dungeons right now, all solo, all deathless. I didn't die actually until we tried the raid boss for the first time today, and I'm on the harder difficulty. The abilities just feel and look really cool. Like, just zooming in on the Hydra, it looks pretty sick. When it attacks, it has like a really crunchy sound. The burning damage looks really, really effective. They just did an absolute bang up job with the graphics. When your character hits level 24, you can also get these ultimate abilities. I went for Deep Freeze right here, which encases yourself in ice. You become invulnerable for 4 seconds. You do a lot of damage. You chill everybody. And then it does another additional big explosion damage. Just listen to how awesome this thing sounds. And it lasts really long. It feels super, super strong. I think it's really badass. The combat in this game, the way it looks and the way it feels, just feels incredibly powerful and impactful. Just give you guys a little bit of a taste here. But it's not like they're taking a really long time to take damage. It looks and it feels pretty impactful, like I'm actually hitting the monsters. So this is one of the global world events where someone random could show up and help me. Hell, we get a couple helpers. Yeah, let's let's show this off. So the idea here is there are 4 different plates, and 1 player stands on each plate. We kill monsters until the obelisk gets fully charged, and then an additional little mini boss will spawn. We'll kill that mini boss, and this is just like a Destiny 2, mini world event, right? So yeah, we're just working on these plates right here. Let's see, that one looks like it's done. This one still needs some love. You see the blood portals coming out of it. Bobby J's helping us out, level 15 Bobby J. Okay, I'll do this. Deep Freeze is just so badass. I love this skill. I find that, like, I don't have to do anything, right? I just drop my Hydras, I drop my Flame Walls. Occasionally I'll have to do something defensive with my Flame Shield here. It makes me invulnerable for 3 seconds. But I find this build incredibly powerful. All right, and it looks like that was the whole event, actually. There was no mini-boss in this one. So yeah, that's the event. I teamed up with these dudes. I can say, good job, guys. Well done. Cool little global events. Honestly, this bothered me a lot more early on when I was expecting an ARPG. But now that I've warmed up to it, it's an ARPG still. Like, the combat feels like it. But having these MMO light mechanics, honestly, PoE and just playing pure ARPGs is kind of lonely. After playing with my friends last night, teaming up with people like this, it's been, as much as I want to be like, be a purist and say, oh, this should just be a pure ARPG, video games evolve and new stuff comes out. And, I could harp on the itemization and all that. Feels a little limited, but we're only seeing the very beginning of the game. We'll see where it goes. There's some cool stuff here. I took a screenshot earlier. You can do some re-rolls of some mods on your items. You can spend gold to do that. I do want to call out that I think my character looks sick. Like, they did a really, really good job with the characterization. I think the texture on the clothing looks really beautiful. The character customization was pretty solid. I think my character looks really cool. The texture on like the hair and like the reflectiveness on everything. Sometimes, maybe on the snow here, it might look a little plasticky and cheap. But, compared to the other stuff, particularly in this genre, I think the graphics do generally look pretty darn good. I'm not going to comment on the UI. There are definitely some display issues. It took me and 2 other friends to figure out where we could find our stats right here with this eyeball under materials and stats. Like, we wanted to just see, like, what was our poison resistance? And we had to, you have to click materials and stats and click this eyeball. This is, kind of hidden in a weird place. But besides, some of the UI jank and stuff like that, I think there are actually some pretty good bones on this game. I am worried about monetization, and I'm worried about daily logins and battle passes and all that stuff. I don't want that in my video games in general, especially for a game that I've already paid $100 just to play the beta, you know, so I could record this video for you guys over the past, 16 hours playing with my friends, doing these world events, customizing my character and getting gear and going through this world so far. I have legitimately had a lot of fun. I'm curious if this is going to have a seasonal model or if it's going to turn into an MMO. I am concerned that it says item power on my gear. Am I going to have to worry about item power for logging into a dungeon? Or if I want to pug a raid, like how much of an MMO is this going to turn into? I don't know. But the combat's fun and the bosses have been fun and the cinematics are good. Performance has been bad. Been having a lot of fun playing with my friends and I see a lot of potential here. Also, give me a tab map. You can't do like a map while you're walking around, It's the same thing as Diablo 3, right? Like I don't know why Blizzard's dying on this hill, but yikes. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Totally unscripted. I just sat down and talked. Maybe this will help you make a purchasing decision for yourself. I am tentatively looking forward to this game when it actually comes out. If it absolutely is insanely good, I could see it being a primary game that I play here, actually. And, I'd love for it to be a game that I could support and be a good game, right? It'd be good for Blizzard to get a little redemption there after how, I call them out when stuff's bad, but I would love for them to, to turn it around. I don't want to root for people to fail all the time. That's my thoughts so far. I think I'm probably about done with the beta right now, about a day and a half of play. I think that's probably about the most you can get besides playing other classes, and I don't want to level up a new class. I think there's some food for thought here. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all soon. Goodbye.